Hello and welcome to another Record Sport Facebook Live. My name is Daniel Caw and I'm delighted to be joined all the way at Ibrox by Record Sport's Gavin Berry and by our special guest today, former Grade 1 referee Steve Conroy. Guys, how are you both?
Hello, very well, thanks.
Very well, Daniel, thanks. Just catching my breath after that. That was unbelievable.
I was going to say, look, I've got a page of notes in front of me here. I don't even know where to start. That was, without a doubt, one of the best Old Firm matches you're ever likely to see.
I know. I was saying that to someone in the press room there. You know, people are talking about different things like the subs. Oh, so Brendan Rodgers should never have brought in Cal McGregor and Yang. The two of them were at fault for the goals. They should have brought in James Forrest. They says done this, done that. Rangers were terrible in the first half. See, sometimes you get games every now and again where you think there's no point in there's no point. Sometimes none of it makes sense. I mean, Celtic could have been out of sight. The game could have been over at half time. You know, if Celtic could have scored a few more. They were so dominant, but as I say, you can overanalyze it. Sometimes you just need to accept it. It was a bonkers game and just be grateful for it. It was a great advert for Scottish football, great advert for the fixture. Maybe not quality, right enough, but since when did we ever care about that?
Well, look, there's a myriad of places we could start, but since we've got an expert with us, Gav, I think maybe it's best to start with some of the controversial refereeing decisions. A game like this never goes by without a plethora of talking points. Steve, first of all, the first one in the first half, Connor Goldson's handball penalty. I'm right in saying that you didn't think it was a penalty?
No, well, slightly. I've got kind of two points on it. And firstly, in a sane world, that should never be handball. He didn't mean to do it. I don't think he was trying to gain an advantage out of it. He jumped kind of clumsy and his arms were just responding to his jump. So I don't think that should ever be a penalty. In the current climate, a penalty all day long, and there's no way around it. He was making his arms big. His arm was away from his body. Wasn't particularly natural for the movement. So, yeah, it is a penalty. But one of my great bugbears is that penalty, they make it far too complicated. Nobody knows what's going on. Go back to the good old days where if I think it's deliberate, it's a handball and a penalty.
How did you see that, Gav? I mean, he's Goldson's arms at a kind of angle. It was a bit odd, but I think Steve's right. John Beaton didn't have a choice, really.
Yeah, I'm just offended, Dan, that you said we'll start with the expert. I thought you were going to say me. I'm not an expert on anything, Dan, right? Thanks a lot for that big introduction. No, I think, to be honest, Steve is the expert, and that's exactly how I would see it. It absolutely is a penalty, but as so many people in football have said, I think Philip Clement actually said it himself in the post-match press conference, it's the rule that's the problem. It's the rule that's the issue, but under the rules, absolutely a penalty.
The other big talking point, Steve, was had a very eventful day. I spoke to you at half time, and play acting, his antics were kind of annoying you, I know that. But he did get his penalty in the second half. How did you see that one?
Well, I personally don't think it was a penalty. I think John called it right initially when he gave him a yellow card for diving. I don't doubt that there was contact in it, but when you play it and you slow it down, Johnson seems to have a habit of getting involved in potential penalties against Rangers. He was trying to get his leg out the way. I don't think he intentionally was trying to trip anybody up. It's a contact sport. Not all contact is a foul. And in my opinion, Silva was going down already. So I don't think that was a foul. And I think John called it right, and I wish he'd had the power of his convictions and stayed to it.
So Steve, sorry, on you go, Gav, sorry.
No, sorry, I was going to, what I was intrigued to know, Steve, I was going to ask you was because I must admit, there was a few times with Silva, and obviously Dan spoke to you earlier and he said that you were getting frustrated with him, and I totally agree. He was throwing himself around, and he's done this a lot of times in a Rangers shirt, and he's really frustrating. And I'm surprised Philip Clement, being a kind of no-nonsense style manager, I'm surprised he hasn't had the word with Fabio Silva and said, "Look, stop the theatrics," because he's just rolling about. He did it in the first half. I actually thought, well, I mean, you could have taken any Rangers players off at half time, but I thought Silva might get the hook here because he was so ineffective. And just before the penalty, He had another one where it was a dive and he was throwing himself about. And then as they were, I don't know if the Sky cameras showed it, but as they were reviewing the incident, he barged Liam Scales as well. He was like a hothead. I wanted to ask you, if a referee knows a player is like that and he's got that reputation, are they less likely to give a penalty? And when it comes to it, is that John Beaton obviously went and booked him. Will they err on that side if they think a player's been at it the whole game?
No, they shouldn't do it. If they think they've been at it, then I said at half-time what my opinion of it was. If I had been refereeing him and I didn't caution him for that bit where he was rolling about as if he had something amputated, I'd certainly have had words with him afterwards, and I would let him know in no uncertain terms what I thought of him. Mm-hmm. But no, you shouldn't go into any game with any preconceived ideas. You call it as you see it.
Okay.
But I wouldn't be shy in saying to somebody in that situation that I'm watching you.
Okay.
I'm putting up some posts there, guys, from some people watching Facebook. Thanks for watching. David Anderson saying it was never a penalty. John Langham as well. Beaton bottled it. I think that's a wee bit harsh. But Steve, just to clarify, if you'd been in John Beaton's shoes today and you'd been sent to the monitor, you would have still said no penalty for the Fabio Silva one?
It's easy for me to say sitting here. But going over to the monitor, you would know fine what you're coming up against, and I'd have been cursing inside, absolutely, and you can't say the words here. I like to think that I would have the power of my convictions and stay to it. I'm, sitting here, it's easy for me to say I'm absolutely convinced that he called it right in the first instance, but you must have enough doubt on the way to the monitor to think, oh God, I made enough of it. So the seed of doubt is sown before you even get there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Could I ask you another quick question, Steve? Sorry to butt in, Dan. Alistair Johnson, I see a lot of people sort of on social media that asking why Alistair Johnson wouldn't have received a second yellow. But I think he was already on a booking. Am I right in saying that? Am I right?
I think you're right. I think he was.
So what should, I suppose not every foul's a yellow card, but what I was going to say, if you've conceded a penalty, would that not necessarily count as a caution? No,
not every penalty is a caution, and a penalty's probably sentence enough, but no, not every foul, even in the box, is a caution. Right. So never my mind to give him a second yellow for that.
Would it have crossed John Beaton's mind then? Would that have been something to think? Do I then book him? No.
Oh, he might have thought that, but he would have dismissed it quickly enough because it wasn't a caution, even though it was in the box. It wasn't a caution.
Okay. Well, that's good to clear that up because I see people asking the question. So,
yeah,
I almost felt sorry for John Beaton, guys, and that's not something you'll hear very often about feeling sorry for a ref. But all the talk about him going into this game, and I bet deep down he was thinking, well, just a quiet 0-0, not much going on would have been great, but the complete opposite, and kind of. I mean, overall, Steve, how would you kind of mark his game?
I thought that incident, notwithstanding, and you know what, you lose track of what the SFA think, or they don't. If they think that was a penalty, then he'll get glowing marks for that. Mm-hmm. If they think that he was wrong and it shouldn't have been a penalty, the same opinion as me, he'll still be marked down as being unsatisfactory because he got a major incident wrong. Mm-hmm. So it all depends on the SFA's interpretation, what the official mark is. But I have to say that that decision aside, I couldn't take issue with anything, Gray. I don't agree. You're not going to agree with every foul, every caution. That's just ludicrous to suggest it. But other than that, no issues with him at all. I thought he was in control. Other than maybe a couple of minutes, he was in absolute control throughout it.
Yeah. The frustrating thing and the disappointing thing for Celtic and Brendan Rodgers is going to be that, I mean, they were obviously 2-0 up and they played so well in the first half and, were in total control. Rangers needed something really to, big to happen they needed a goal to get them back into the game. Otherwise, Celtic would just see it out. Mm-hmm. And it's the fact that it's a penalty that you don't think was a penalty that gets Rangers back into the game. Rangers then equalise, or so we think, quickly after, and you're thinking you couldn't believe what was happening here. There was fans on the side, on the perimeter here. The place just erupted. I think it's 2 each, Cyril Dessers, but of course that goal is then ruled out because there's a foul in the build-up. Have we lost Steve here?
I think he's dropped out a minute.
I lost you, Steve.
Hopefully he'll come back in a wee second.
Sorry, what I was going to say anyway, Daniel, was that Rangers think they're back in the game. It's 2 in the space of, what was it, a minute or something like that? You're thinking, Jesus, this is unbelievable. But of course, that then gets chopped off as well. And it was for a foul by Tom Lawrence on Tomoki Iwata, wasn't it? And the foul, it was a clear foul. I don't know, did it show you on Sky?
No.
It was definitely a clear foul, I think.
Yeah. Sorry, Steve, I was just saying to Daniel there that Rangers think they're back into it with 2 goals in the space of a minute or whatever it was. Certainly 2 goals in quick succession, and that would have been crucial at that stage. I think if Rangers had, if that second goal had counted, they may well have gone on and won the game. Mm-hmm. It was chopped off for a foul by Tom Lawrence on Tomoki Iwata. I'm not sure if they showed you the foul, but certainly it was a clear foul. But another question I see people asking is, how far back can VAR go? Because the foul took place very early on in the move. But of course, it was the right decision. And actually, to be fair to Philip Clement, I think in his post-match press conference, he said the same. He says, VAR has done its job. I wish it hadn't, but it did. But I see people saying, well, can it go that far back? Obviously, it can. Is that normal?
Yeah, well, that incident there isn't normal. I think that was, that was quite exceptional. But no, they were quite right, and they can go that far back. There's not a specific time frame. But they will take it back if they need to the start of the attacking move. So you see things going right back to what was the defending half initially, and they break and they score. But they will bring it back to where the initial foul was at the beginning of the move. So it can be forever. But there's no time scale to it.
Yeah, okay. That's good. Another one that was well cleared up.
There was a funny moment as well. I wanted to ask you, Gav, what the atmosphere was like in the stadium at that point when Rangers scored what they thought was the second goal, because John Beaton came back and it looked like he pointed to the centre circle as if it was a goal. And it sounded like it went mental, but of course he chopped it off.
Oh, it did. And funnily enough, the exact same thing happened in the first Old Firm derby this season here, if you remember, the one when Kemar Roos scored, which was then chopped off with VAR for the foul by Cyril Dessers on Gustav Lagerbielke. I think at the time, Steve, you said that you didn't think that was a foul, is that right? That goal shouldn't have been chopped off?
God, back in the depth of my opinion at the time was that it shouldn't have been chopped off.
Yeah, but anyway, it was, and as Daniel said, it was a repeat of the same scenario where I don't think that the crowd realised what John Beaton was signalling for, and they cheered to think it was a goal. But certainly when that goal went in, because it was so soon after the penalty had gone, and the game had totally turned on its head at that point. I mean, the place erupted because, well, you can understand the fans were so frustrated in the first half, the Rangers fans, because they played so poorly. They played. I don't think they could believe how badly they had played, and suddenly to find themselves level, or so they thought they were level. I mean, the place did erupt. As I say, there were fans actually spilling over. I saw the security guy down at the tunnel. He was, a bit worried as to how it was going to end up, and would the fans actually end up the pitch, but they just spilled onto the kind of perimeter.
See, we could talk about this all night, guys. I'm conscious that we've maybe taken up more of Steve's time than we planned, but look, just to finish, Gav, on the game itself, it's a kind of odd feeling, because I think a lot of Celtic fans would have said, look, if they go to Ibrox and avoid defeat, they'd be happy, they'd be content. Yeah. But it kind of feels like a defeat for Celtic.
I think exactly. I think you're exactly right, and I almost, listening to both, the managers and Callum McGregor and Rabbi Matondo, all four who had come into the press conference, they're all trying to obviously put a positive spin on how it is for them, but it's hard to work out. I suppose from Celtic's point of view, what they will be saying is, they now have the final Old Firm game, which comes after the split at Celtic Park, and they will really fancy their chances of winning that because their record at home against Rangers is so good, and Rangers have it all to do. Rangers now have to go and make sure they avoid defeat, but it's actually the other games as well that are going to come into play here. I mean, Celtic have dropped more points, against the other side. So what's going to happen in these games? I mean, right away, Rangers are going to Dundee on Wednesday. We've got all the talk of the pitch at Dens Park and how bad it is. What's that going to be like on a Wednesday night? They've now got to go there and win to go too clear. And that's the way it's going to be for the remaining games. But from Celtic's point of view, there'll be a tinge of disappointment there. Look, when they score the third goal, there's no way they're thinking Rangers are coming back after that. To be fair to Rangers, and this is one thing that Philip Clement has instilled in the team as a spirit, a never say die spirit, to come back and get that equaliser again is quite incredible. So they will naturally get a psychological lift from that. But they cannot expect to go through an entire season and not win an Old Firm game and win the league. But who knows? Stranger things.
Steve, I'm going to put you in the spot before we let you go. As we sit here right now, who do you fancy to be Premiership champions at the end of the season?
Still Celtic.
You think so? Give Celtic the edge?
I get partly because of what you just said. The last derby game at Celtic Park, even if Rangers win on Wednesday to go a point clear, that can still be clawed back. So, I'd still be going for
two. I think Rangers would go too clear. I mean, it's only 2 points, but that could make all the difference and swing it in Rangers' favour. But I have to say that, I mean, Celtic in the first half, they played well, but they lost a grip on it. I have to say, neither of the two teams are very good, and whoever ends up winning it, I don't think we're going to look back and say it was a vintage title-winning team.
I think that's fair.
But listen, they all count.
I definitely agree, Gav, that it's probably not a vintage year for quality, but one thing that Scottish football always ensures, it's never boring, and today was no exception. Steve, it's been an absolute pleasure having you. Gav, safe trip home from Ibrox. And I should say, for everyone watching, continue to leave comments in the comments section below, and thanks for watching. Thanks again, guys. Cheers.
Thanks, Daniel. Thank you, Steve. Thank you.
Bye-bye.